I did everything right and they indicted me.
And I don't know what the I'm doing. Antifa!
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Katie Halper Show. We have a fabulous show for you. Now I'm fully in the screen. Not sure what happened there, but not too surprising because as some of you may know, we were hacked. So maybe the Mossad is still inside the computer. As they say in Zoolander, the files are in the computer. Just kidding about that. But we are very happy that whoever tried to hack us was ultimately unsuccessful. We'll get into that later. I don't want to waste any time up top of the show because we have three incredible guests on today's show, and one of them has limited time, and we do not want to waste any of his time. Not that we want to waste any of our guests' time, but again, this guy, just so thrilled to have him on. So I'll give all the announcements, but you guys know the whole deal. Please like, please subscribe, please become Patreon supporters. But the most important thing is put your hands together virtually and give a thumbs up to Mosab Abu Toha, who is an incredible poet, Pulitzer Prize winning poet and author from Gaza. He's the founder of the Edward Said Public Library in Gaza and the author of Forest of Noise. So welcome, Mosab, to the show. Thank you so much for coming.
I'm excited to be talking to you.
Thank you. Yes, it's wonderful to see you. Wanted to ask you, I mean, I thought it was really important to have you on. Full disclosure, I'm always trying to get you on the show, but especially now because so many eyes are on Iran, understandably, Lebanon, understandably, and, you know, people, I think, unfortunately, some people are almost beginning to forget Gaza. Either because it doesn't get the attention it deserves, or because people are, the more kind of charitable read is that for some people, they're just looking at Lebanon, hopefully, or Iran. So what do you think the most important thing for people to remember about Gaza is right now at the moment?
Yeah, thank you again, Katie, for speaking to me and for speaking about Gaza and Palestine in a time when not heartbreakingly, the media is shifting its attention to other stories as if Gaza has been the center of their attention. Right. But more and more right now, Gaza has been, enduring an ongoing genocide. Any day, during the past 2.5 years. Now it's around 1,000 days. Not a single day have I woken up, while I was in Gaza or in Egypt and now in the United States, that I did not see any breaking news, any images, any names of people that I know or people from my city or from the camp. So every single day, Israel continues, to slaughter the people in Gaza, whether it's during the tolerated genocide or during so-called ceasefire. So there is no big difference between, when there is a ceasefire announced or not. Today, about 11 people were killed. And yesterday, other people were killed, including a 6-year-old child and then a 15-year-old girl who succumbed to her wounds. And in that same strike, a 1-month-old infant, lost his foot. So, I mean, what I need people to know about Gaza right now is that people continue to live in tents in the streets. I have 3 sisters who are living, 2 of them living in tents in the streets with their children. The youngest is 2 years old right now. They continue to live in inhumane conditions that no one on earth should accept to continue living in. A tent, from its name, it is a temporary place, but it seems like this is the fate of the people in Gaza. Just like the refugee camp, it should be, a temporary place for the refugees until they go back to their homes, something that continues to exist, for 78 years right now. 2 out of the 8 refugee camps in the Gaza Strip have been annihilated by the Israeli terrorist forces, and something that has been tolerated by the entire world. I always, wonder, I mean, when people talk about attacks on the refugee camp, sometimes, people have to stop and pause. There are refugee camps in Gaza. Why? What brought these people to the refugee camps? And then we have to go back to the 1948 catastrophe, which was facilitated by the United Kingdom and now continues to be enabled by the United States and other European governments. So people, live in the streets in inhumane conditions. Children haven't gone to school for 2 years and a half. I mean, just imagine during COVID when parents were in panic mode because their kids are not going to classes, they are not meeting other children, they are not meeting their teachers. Grandparents haven't been, at least for a few months, they couldn't meet with their children or their grandchildren. It was a catastrophic experience for so many people. I'm sure that many people wrote essays about, how difficult it was for them not to, be in their grandchildren's first birthday, whatever. But now imagine that this is happening to people in Gaza every single day, that people are missing each other, that the grandparents are separated from their children and their grandchildren. Now I'm in the United States, far away from Palestine, from my siblings and their children. My wife lost her father while she was outside of Gaza. So children have been suffering and no one is paying attention to them. Education has been lost. Culture has been, shelter. This is one of the most basic rights of a human life. Shelter. No one talks about rebuilding Gaza. Any attempt at clearing the rubble and trying to rebuild something is faced by more Israeli attacks. So, I wish people whoever is watching us, whoever is listening to us, would think of the children in Gaza who make up, half the population in Gaza. These children have been living in shelter. These children have been traumatized. One of my nephews was sitting next to the 9-year-old girl who was shot in an educational tent in North Gaza just 3 weeks ago. So I mean, this was just 3 weeks ago. Just imagine how many things else he has to endure over the past 2.5. So this is a child who's 12 years old. So the trauma, no one is talking about, treating these children even before October 2023.
Right.
Our children in Gaza have been traumatized. They needed trauma sessions. Many of them think about death. Many of them think that they will die the next day. So just imagine, I mean, as a parent, if you were in Gaza right now.
Yeah, how do you? I'm wondering, Mosab. I know that you have you yourself are a father and you have adorable children. How do you explain to them what's happening? I mean, I often think about this for parents who are there or parents who have family there or from there, as is in your case. I mean, how do you make sense of this to your children in a way that doesn't traumatize them, if that's even possible?
I mean, we were a lucky family because we were able to evacuate Gaza, in December 2023. So just about 2 months into the genocide, into the ongoing genocide. So I was, lucky because we could evacuate Gaza. We were able to leave Gaza in one piece. I mean, 5 pieces in one piece, everyone. We survived death. Our house was bombed, and luckily we were in the refugee camp before the refugee camp itself was bombed the same day we arrived in it. So I mean, my children, compared to my nephews and nieces, and also my wife's nephews and nieces and cousins, I would say haven't seen anything, despite the fact that,
Right.
October and November, when we were being bombed in the refugee camp or in Beit Lahia, of them, hearing the bombs and crying and screaming. But compared to the children who are now in Gaza for more than 2 years since the start of the ongoing genocide, I can't compare, their trauma. Unfortunately, we are at the phase of, comparing traumas. My children, 2 months, nothing. If one day is a catastrophe for a child to go through bombings. So my children, are now in the States. They are going to schools. They are socializing with other kids. They are doing sports. And this for me as a father has been the most important thing that I could do, other than, continuing to write and share the stories about people in Gaza. People, I'm not talking about people as if they are unknown. These are my family, my wife's family, friends, my neighbors, my students, my colleagues. So, the fact that my kids, are going to school and practicing what I call practicing their childhood, doing, sport here and going to the Y, to swim, etc. So they are in their own circle right now, away from Gaza. And also we are geographically very far from Gaza. So now it's been over 2 years since we left Gaza, and my kids are, they are trying to live their life as children, and we are giving them that space. So they don't often talk about that, but I remember during the first 2 or 3 months in Egypt, my kids were talking about their grandparents and their cousins and nephews. Daddy, are they eating? Can you help them get out of Gaza? They start to mention some names of their cousins, etc. Can you help them out, etc. But now, they have been, staying very far away from Gaza, and this is good for them, and this is good for their future. But one day, when they grow up, they will look back on these days, and they will reflect on them, and they will share their own experiences about what they saw and what they missed
Right.
of Gaza.
So you acknowledge that you have so much relative, this is kind of a ridiculous word even to say, but like relative privilege compared to your family members who are still in Gaza. And yet it's I think worth noting, while acknowledging that what you experience here is not comparable. But it's worth noting that even someone like you, a Pulitzer Prize winning author, you have to deal with so much dehumanization. I mean, there are two recent examples. One example is from an appearance that you made on MSNBC, where you were basically trashed on air for normalizing violence on October 7th. And then more recently, you dealt with something that was kind of incredible at Moyne College. Can you just give a brief summary of what happened there and what you think that both of those events represent about what it means to be a Palestinian, even a Pulitzer Prize winning Palestinian, today in the United States? And I just want to be clear, it's not like I think that it would be okay to dehumanize anyone who doesn't have a Pulitzer Prize, but it just kind of shows a level of dehumanization.
Yeah, I do. I sometimes get, to be honest, sometimes I hate when people say, oh, how come you talk to a Pulitzer Prize winning author like this? As if I am a better human being.
Right, exactly. Right. No. But we know that these people are snobs, right? So it
I
just
know.
shows that even within their own snobbery sorry, but keep going.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly. I mean, I want to highlight that, this doesn't make me a better human being.
Right, 100%, right.
Human. But yeah, I mean, here Pulitzer is a respected prize here in the States. People value these prizes. And in the MSNBC interview, which was in May last year, it was a few days after I won the Pulitzer, I went to appear on MSNBC. I think it's called the show is called Weekend Prime Time, something like that. And I know, as someone who won the Pulitzer for pieces that he wrote, and someone who survived the genocide, someone who has relatives, someone who lost so many family members and relatives and friends, I was, expected that I would be talking about the pieces for which I won, because I won the Pulitzer for 4 pieces. One of them was about the starvation that was written. I wrote that piece in February of 2024. And then another piece was about the difficulty of traveling as a Palestinian. The third piece was about the destruction of the refugee camp. And then the fourth was about what I lost in Gaza, what we have lost in Gaza in general. So, these are very rich topics, on which, I could be asked to expand. But right after the first question, I was asked by one of the hosts about some comments that I made about an Israeli hostage who was a soldier or a police patrol. And, I was questioning, not that hostage as a hostage, but I was asking, why would the word, automatically give the Israelis, whether they are soldiers or civilians, the name hostage, while the Palestinians, even if they were, even if they were collecting firewood to cook for their families, if they were abducted, they would call prisoners. I was abducted at a checkpoint, and if you go to the mainstream media now, BBC, CNN, New York Times, Washington Post, no one would say Mosab was abducted or kidnapped. No one called me a hostage. So I was questioning how on earth that person would be called a hostage automatically because she was an Israeli, and I and other doctors and teachers and parents, would be just, Israel detained 5 people, right? So I was a question, and I made, I thought I made my point very clear, and then she was wondering, why don't you humanize everyone? This is your job. Why don't you humanize me? Why don't you talk about me as a Palestinian who has been oppressed, right? And Katie, it's shocking because she was talking about 2 posts out of, at the time, maybe I made at least 7,000 posts on my social media. So I posted 7,000 posts on my social media, and she chose to pick, and of course other people that you could expect, they chose to pick these 2 posts and say, oh, he's denying, he's justifying. I mean, I'm questioning the language here, right? I'm not justifying.
Of course.
Are the people who are justifying our murder. Anyway, so I remember, posting about my aunt, my great aunt, Fatima Dibis. That was October 2024. So 5 months before I won the Pulitzer. So in October 2024, I posted on social media, and you can go back to my X, to my Facebook, to my Instagram, and see that I posted that my great aunt is in her house along with her children and her grandchildren, and they were surrounded by Israeli bulldozers and tanks and soldiers, and they are besieged in their homes, and they couldn't go out because they would be killed. And I posted, I sent a plea, please, can someone help them? So where has that journalist been? And where other people when I posted that? Why haven't they read my post and respond to it? Right? That's the question. I posted thousands of emails of posts. Some of them breaking news. Some of them, please. For example, in one, I was doing a Sky News interview. I don't remember which month. Maybe January 2026, of an airstrike on Arafat family house in Al Zaytun neighborhood, east of Gaza City. And as I was on air, I was preparing myself for the interview. I was on air in the backstage room. And there was a video of a woman who was stuck under the rubble, and she was moving her hand. And on air, I showed it to the host. I think she was Yalda Hakim, the host, the Sky News. So I showed her, Yalda, this is now from Gaza. Someone is moving her hand. And Israel is preventing any ambulances or fire trucks from going to rescue that woman. Maybe someone who's watching us would rescue that woman, right? Because people care about life, it seems. Look, this is a woman. Maybe someone who's watching us could send an ambulance to save her life. But that never happened. I posted, I posted about my father-in-law who was killed in August 2025. And before he was wounded in an airstrike on August 1st, and he was in very, very critical condition. 2 pieces of shrapnel penetrated through his head, and they landed in the middle of his head. And I posted on my social media, can someone please help my father-in-law, the grandfather of my children and the father of my wife? Maybe evacuate him, take him to another hospital, because you don't believe it, Katie. He was taken to Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza City, and they had to take him on, I think it was a donkey cart or something, to Al-Ahli hospital to do the CT scan, because there was nothing in the Shifa hospital. So I posted that on my social media. Where had these journalists been when I posted these, pleas for help? No, no one showed.
Right. Yeah. And then of course sorry.
Moyne, I was invited to read my poetry and talk about Gaza and my life. And, I have every single right to speak the language that I see appropriate, as a Palestinian, as a refugee, as a witness, as a victim, and a survivor of the genocide in Gaza, and also as a relative of more than, my wife and I are relatives of more than 100 victims. So I have every right, to use the language that I see fit to describe my story. And I use the word genocide, and it seems like that word was inappropriate, and it could, in the language of the Moyne College president, it hurt feelings of Jewish people who were at my event. Well, first of all, I did not know that the Jewish people are responsible for the genocide. I thought it was and the Israeli government and the Israeli terrorist forces. And then what do we do? Prioritize? Do we prioritize, the feelings of some people, or the story, the first-hand experience of someone?
Right. And even, I agree with you about the responsibility, but also would anyone say, let's not use the word the Holocaust in front of Germans?
Yeah.
Right. Because it's not even the right analogy, because as you said, Jews aren't a monolith either. And so that's also, it throws Jews on, not as important, but it's also anti-Semitic, because now you're presenting Jews as this monolith who support a genocidal government. Right. Which, but it's also not controversial to call it genocide. Every single credible human rights organization Not to mention countless Palestinians who have experienced it have explained this. So it's just, I mean, it's disgusting.
I want to add something to this. Even if Amnesty International, even if Beit Salem, even if the United Nations, even if the Association of Genocide and Holocaust Studies called it a genocide, I call it a genocide because I experience it and I recognize. So, Katie, if you go back to my social media again, I was in Gaza in October 2023 and I was posting, and I called it a genocide, I think, from the first week. I called Stop the Genocide. So I was not waiting for anyone to call it a genocide. And I'm not going to quote anyone, oh, you know why it is a genocide? Because this scholar called it this or that. I don't care what they called it. I mean, during the Holocaust, I don't think anyone called it a Holocaust while it was perpetrated. But later, people called it a Holocaust, and it is a horrific crime, right? So I, as a Palestinian, as a survivor, and also as a victim of these terrorist actions of Israel, I will not wait for anyone to tell me what to say. I will say what I want. If this hurts you, then leave the room.
Exactly. Good. That's a great way of saying it. And lastly, because I know you have to go, and I'm so grateful because I know how busy you are. We've been seeing these horrible images of rape that occurred in at State Haman. That's just one image that happened to be leaked. I mean, there's so much more than has been documented on video. Then we saw what Israel was doing, this brutality to people on the flotilla who themselves have reported of sexual abuse. And again, it's not like it's worse because it's happening to people from outside of Gaza. It just does speak to this level of impunity that they are willing to do it to people who will, have access. And I know that you were subjected to violence and abuse, and to the extent that you're comfortable, can you share this?
Yeah, I'm willing, to share my story because it was the story of at least two relatives of mine who were abducted. When I was abducted on November 19th, 2023, I was abducted for about 3 days, I would say, about 53 hours. And if it wasn't for the media campaign and the pressure that was put on the Israeli government, maybe I would have spent more days. Not that there was nothing on me, but at least they don't, whether you are guilty or not guilty of anything. And why should a Palestinian be guilty? The only guilt is just living on their land and trying to defend. I mean, we don't have those means to defend ourselves, but the Palestinian people are trying to defend themselves. So on November, I was abducted. On November 19th, I was abducted, and I was sexually abused by 3 Israeli soldiers. I had to strip naked in front of them, and I had even to turn around. So I mean, that was one of the most traumatic experiences in my life. Now, that was my case. I was stripped naked in front of 3 Israeli soldiers. Later, 2 relatives of mine were abducted, also from checkpoints as they were leaving with their wives and children. So this is what happens. So when I was abducted while trying to evacuate North Gaza with my wife and our 3 kids. My 2 other relatives, one of them was trying to evacuate Gaza along with his wife and their 2 kids. He was abducted at checkpoint and he spent a year. Another relative of my wife was also abducted and he spent over a year. One of them, I talked to him. He told me he was stripped naked in a bathroom in front of 10 Israeli soldiers. So, I mean, the act of stripping someone naked in the front of Israeli soldiers, and God knows, if they were recording you or, I mean, I don't trust them at all. I don't trust them with my pencil. And I'm sure that the videos that have been leaked, for which one of I think that was the military judge or something, or someone who leaked the video was punished. So we have a world where someone who tries to speak the truth is punished, not those who commit the crime. So yeah, I mean, and rape, by the way, Katie, rape is not new to the Israeli people. I would say, the Israeli military in this case, because even in Benny Morris's books, you can see, the rape that happened in Deir Yassin. I think it was the Red Cross or the United Nations commissioner in 1948. They reported that there were rapes in 1948. That, I mean, one of the reasons some Palestinians panicked and had to leave their villages. I mean, in the case of Deir Yassin, is that it was reported by villagers that the Israeli, or it was not the Israeli, it was Zionist gang, were raping children, girls and women, and that spread like fire. And the villagers, learned about that, and the first thing they did was to leave, because honor is a big thing for the Palestinian people. So using rape as a weapon is not new to this genocide. It's been used as a weapon against the Palestinian people, to expel them from their homes, to torture them, and we're living the aftermath of still 1948.
Right. Yeah. We had the wonderful Mohammed Shahada come on and talk about this, and he made a video and he shows some of the things that Benny Morris says. And again, Benny Morris is not a critic of Israel, but it's just the records are there. You can't deny it. Well, I'm obviously so sorry that happened to you. I'm so sorry that things are happening right now to the people of Gaza. I know
مرام اتفنت بسرعة، اتفنت اللي على جوالي.
Let's see. So sorry that these things have happened. There's like words fail, as I always say. And I think that maybe he had to go. But this was great. Thank you so much for coming on. I think he was just calling his wife.
Yeah, I think I'll just take him off.
Okay, great, yeah.
I think his connection kind of lagged a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
but that was amazing. And
that was great.
Yes, that was great. Thank you so much, Mosab. And I highly recommend Mosab's writing and poetry. And we didn't have enough time, but he recently planted a strawberry tree, which is beautiful. And strawberries are beloved by Rafat Al-Arir, who is one of Mosab's mentors. Rafat Al-Arir was just he mentored so many amazing people who continue to honor his legacy through their own writing. Yesterday, my wife Maram and I planted 2 strawberry plants in front of our home in memory of her father, who was a strawberry farmer, and my dear friend Rafat Al-Arir, who was a strawberry lover. They were both killed by Israel in August 2025 and December 2023, respectively. May their memories live forever, and may their families receive justice in their lives. So yes, I did. That happened to be the name that we heard. Maram, I think, was. He's back. Let me just see if. Hi, Mosab. How are you? You're back. Are you frozen? Can you hear us? I have a feeling something ran out.
It strikes me, Katie, as the connection being slow.
Oh, okay. Great.
Or something to that effect. But Mosab, if you can hear us, thank you so very much.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm going to text the two of you, Brad and Mosab, so that you can just make sure that he knows that we are totally understand, and he doesn't have to stay, even though we would love him to.
Yeah.
Brad
and he's certainly welcome back anytime.
Yes, definitely. Yes. Okay.
Let's try one last time.
Hi, Mosab. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. I don't know what's wrong with the connection, but yeah, I can.
Okay. Yes, we just showed the image of your the strawberry tree that you planted, and we will cut in, and we can play the video too. But if you need to, do you need to? We would love to keep talking to you, but if you, I know that you needed to go shortly, so. Well, Mosab is a poet, so I feel like this is artistic. Oh wait, let me undo that one. Okay, here, can you mute that one, Brad?
And then unmute.
Yeah.
Okay. Here. Hi. Oh, hi. Okay, you're back. Wait, you're muted. Okay, now you're there. Hello? Mosab, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can,
yes.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear us?
I can hear you, by the way.
You can or can't? Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know why I can't hear you now. Can you speak?
Yeah.
We'll just keep talking, and
something wrong.
Let's see. I'm gonna text.
Are your headphones? Put them in the case and close the lid. Can you hear us now?
Maybe you should take the headphones out. We need to have like a smart whiteboard that we write stuff out on, Brad.
No, we need to go full analog, Katie, a chalkboard. And
Chalkboard,
chalk.
yeah, you're right.
That, that cannot break. There's no,
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
All right, well, yeah, if you want, whoop, is third time the charm?
Okay.
Can you hear us now?
I can hear you now. Yes.
Yay, great. Okay. So
Yeah, I'm not sure what I think I was talking about one of my wife's relatives who were abducted and they were sexually abused, and there are so many other stories of other Palestinian hostages who reported on their sexual abuse during their abduction. And as I said, it's not a new experience. This has been reported in 1948, before and after. And now, people get a chance, to learn about these stories because there is social media, there is more activism right now. But this, for the Palestinian people, it's been used as a weapon against them.
right. And I just have to, I'm muting you in case there's an echo, but so I just muted you.
Can't hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me? Can you hear me now? No. Oh, no. Well, I was just going to say that one of the disgusting things is that to watch the same media that constantly talks about Hamas using rape as a weapon, despite the fact that there's no evidence of a systemic use of rape by Hamas, that same media who talks about that refuses to even mention the documented rape and sexual abuse of Palestinians. Yeah. So shout out to, people like Dana Bash and Jake Tapper, and basically every single mainstream media personality, or Sheryl Sandberg, or Kamala Harris, or Hillary Clinton. All of these people should be absolutely shunned from polite society for being rape apologists and rape enablers. Sorry, that's my little speech.
Yeah.
But
yeah. I mean, history will, record everything, and the future generation, maybe they will be shocked more because these things have been reported on and Palestinians have been speaking out, and some of us, have risked their lives, by just, reporting on these atrocities. While, the outside world not only, stopped the genocide or stopped the atrocities, but continued to fund those perpetrators of these war crimes. So shame on those, perpetrators of war crimes and those who are enable them.
Yes. Well,
and media is part of it also.
Yes, huge part of it. And we're going to talk about that in our next segment as well. And I wish you had more time because I would love to have you on with our next guest who's from AIPAC Tracker, because you guys would have a lot of amazing things to talk about together. And she also has been very vocal condemning the media for whitewashing Israeli rape. So we'll have to have you on together another time. But Mosab, I know you have to go. Anything else you want to say before leaving us? Besides the fact that you promised to come back on?
Yes, I promise. I mean, shout out to those who have, those activists who showed solidarity, not by words, but also by action. And shame on the world government for not taking action, and also for not protecting those who tried to take action.
Yes. Well, amen to that. Thank you, Mosab, and have a wonderful night, and say hello to your amazing family.
Thank you. Much love. Bye.
Bye. That was great. What an inspiration Mosab is. And I mean, yes, his poetry is wonderful. And another time I'll talk to him about that, because I think it's, the role of art and poetry during a genocide, I think is something that is mind-blowing in some ways. And I think that it's definitely worth a discussion. So I would love to talk about that with him. But we are bringing on our next guest. And if you haven't already liked the stream, how are we doing on likes? Guys, I really don't want to have to chide you. All right, we're actually pretty good on likes. Good, I've got you guys trained. We are very excited to be bringing on our next guest. And this is someone who is making their Katie Halper Show debut. Also, I want to announce that we had a scheduling little mishap. So Sana Tusi cannot join, but we are thrilled to say that after our next guest, Cory Archibald, we will be joined by the great, fearless Medea Benjamin, who's going to talk about the subpoenas that some people have been served, or have they been? Unclear. We'll get to the bottom of that over the trip that we went on to Cuba, and I, of course, was one of the people who went on that trip. Okay, so we are very excited to bring on to the show Cory Archibald, who is founder of AIPAC Tracker, the popular watchdog dragging AIPAC's receipts into light and pressuring lawmakers to change course on Israel policy. So welcome to the show, Cory.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. We are going to, of course, be asking you about AIPAC Tracker. But I also wanted to ask you about the latest thing that we were talking about with Mosab a bit, which is this sexual violence and rape, because you had some excellent tweets on this subject. So I wanted to ask you about that. We were talking about this, the horrible crimes committed by the IOF, the Israeli occupation forces, horrific forms of rape, sexual abuse, and torture, which were covered by Nicholas Kristof at the New York Times, of course, in the opinion section, which was interesting. And you responded to a post denying the possibility of any rape by an Israeli soldier against any Palestinian hostage and ridiculing the information about dog rape. So let's take a look at this tweet of yours.
Oh, sorry.
No.
Do you have it, or do I need to grab it? Okay, you got it.
That would be, hold on one second. That would be.
Is this what you're asking for, Katie?
Not, but we will get to that one. Sorry, this is.
This one, Katie?
Yeah, there we go. That's the one.
Yeah. So you were reported to this troll who writes, "No IDF soldier has ever raped any Palestinian, period. End of story. And if you think a dog can rape a person, you're different level ignorant. The entire blood libel of sexual violence by the IDF is the mother of all whatever blood libels." Okay, so then you tweeted, "They were caught on video doing it. When the video was leaked to Israeli media, Israelis stormed the prison and demanded the release of the soldiers who did the raping. Israeli media then turned the rapists into television stars. All of that happened on camera," which again is just a stunning thing that like not every case of rape is that documented, and not every rape like creates literally celebrities out of rapists. But it's just so unreal, and rape has been documented, like Mosab said early on. And I want to pass you the mic, of course, but I think that the fact that went viral spoke to something, but and also just stop using the word blood libel, guys. It is so laughable. Like people who use that word to describe something documented are absolute jokes. And if they cared about anti-Semitism, which they probably do, because they probably want anti-Semitism to exist so they can justify the existence of Israel, blah, blah, blah. But obviously anyone who wanted people to take anti-Semitism seriously would not make words like blood libel and anti-Semitism basically meaningless by throwing them around when there's nothing there. Yeah. But tell me your thoughts on all this.
No, I mean, absolutely. It's crazy making, and we deal with it all the time. It is just, fortunately, I would say that people are broadly beginning to really see through those kinds of allegations. And so they don't carry the same weight that they used to. Unfortunately, the reality that delivered us to this point is that a whole lot of people had to die on camera. And all kinds of horrific abuses have been committed on, and it's the most documented genocide, I think, in history. I'm not a genocide scholar, but certainly plenty of genocide scholars have said that it is thoroughly documented, and it's been live streamed to all of our phones. Yes. I mean, the thing about the sexual abuse aspect of it is I like a vast many women have been, a survivor of sexual violence, and a number of men as well. And it really just makes me crazy to see people just slander survivors and victims for speaking out, to just question their stories and to just dismiss them out of hand. I thought we had this whole conversation back in the Me Too era. Like,
right.
What happened to believe survivors? Where did that go? Right.
Yeah. And you actually, so you tweeted this out, Brad. This is let's take a look at this video of Dana Bash. And we've highlighted on the show frequently the disgusting instance of Dana Bash saying to Pramila Jayapal, mentioning the rape, alleged rape, the mass rape, which we know was not actually, and this does not violate the Believe Women, because there were no one claimed this, right? The people who changed their stories were victims. I mean, sorry, were not victims. They were witnesses. Right? So it's not like victim blaming or victim shaming to point that out. But here's Dana Bash talking about, of course, it's like impossible to bring up the news without talking about this, talking about Hasan. We have talked about and shown that clip of her saying to Pramila Jayapal, when Pramila Jayapal brought up genocide of Palestinians, she goes, and that's terrible, but you don't see Israeli soldiers raping women, which is actually, you do see that, Dana. And thanks for like making it so clear that you're engaging in atrocity propaganda to justify the genocide. Like not everyone makes it that clear. So thanks for that. But here's a short clip of Dana Bash going after Hasan Piker. And you'll see why this is relevant to what we're talking about, because you also responded to that.
Here's some of what he actually has said about the depravity of the October 7th terror attack, the deadliest day for the Jewish people since the Holocaust. Quote, "It doesn't matter if effing rapes happened on October 7th. Like, that doesn't change the dynamic for me. The Palestinian resistance is not perfect." Now, let that sink in. Hasan Piker is excusing sexual violence by Hamas terrorists. He also claims Hamas is, quote, 1,000 times.
Okay, so let's just stop there. That's enough. Like, and then I'm going to have you respond to this. But okay, Dana, it's been like how long since the claim of the mass rape that you helped spread has been debunked, and you have the like gall to revisit that after having totally ignored the documented rape of Palestinians that was covered by the Israeli media? Like, there's no way she doesn't know about it, right?
Right. Yeah, no, she's got producers. She knows.
Yes. And just to clarify, Hasan wasn't saying, I don't care if there was rape. This was during an exchange where he was basically saying, like, even if all the things that people allege that happened on October 7th happened, that doesn't justify a genocide, which is true. But yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's that's the most ironic part about her insidious line of attack, is that the thing that Hasan was, or the position that Hasan was taking in that clip, is the same position that I maintained for a very, very long time. As I had friends that came to me, I work with a lot of political candidates and different organizations, and people obviously know that I'm, an advocate in this space. And I had people ask me, like, Cory, do you think there were mass rapes on October 7th? And I literally, for the longest time, I just said, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Right. I wasn't there. I don't have enough information. I just don't know. And I am very reticent to question that, because, I'm predisposed, but both by my own experience and also because the preponderance of the evidence being what it is when it comes to sexual violence, I'm predisposed to believe survivors. And so I just maintained that position for a very, very long time. Of course, there's been a lot of evidence to call many of those reports into question since then. But, his point is exactly correct, that even if we were to accept all of those things as fact, it doesn't justify the mass slaughter of tens of thousands of likely well north of 100,000, if not close to 200,000 Palestinians, of the mass displacement of Palestinians. It does not, justify mass child slaughter, the, blowing up of hospitals and refugee tents. Like, none of this is a justified response, even if you were to accept all of those things at face value.
Exactly. Right. So shifting gears a little bit, although it's obviously related, what made you tell us about AIPAC Tracker and how and why it started?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting how it came together. So a lot of people have probably seen interviews that I've done with my co-founder, Casey Kennedy. So Casey and I actually kind of started the same project, but coming at it from different angles. And we were introduced about kind of like a month into our efforts, and then we realized, oh, this is the same thing. Let's merge it together. So I've worked in progressive politics for a very long time. Almost a decade now. And I was chair of the board for a brand new Congress for 6 years. I was also part of the team that helped launch Justice Democrats, and got to get involved in political organizing, in that way. And it was because of the work that I did with brand new Congress candidates and some folks from Justice Dems, that I started to see the way that AIPAC was playing a role in Democratic primaries, and also just as I got into doing like political work full time, working with other candidates that were running against people who are AIPAC backed, seeing the role that AIPAC played was just infuriating. Especially I go back to 2022 when they went in on Valerie Fouchi to take down Nida Alam, when the similar race against Erica Smith, they spent to keep her out of power because she was speaking up in solidarity with Palestinians. Remember, all this is before October 7th. And then, of course, the way they went after Andy Levin and installed Haley Stevens. It was insane. Like I just felt like everywhere I turned in 2022, there was this AIPAC group that I barely knew, that was just dumping all kinds of money and installing these candidates with these objectively horrible policies to get rid of people who were building real movements. And so I started to pay closer attention to who AIPAC was and what they did. And then 2023 happens, the genocide begins. And, I had been, I'll say, like, my politics on this issue in particular, I've been here for a while in terms of like my understanding of Palestinian liberation. It took me some time to get there. I kind of grew up conservative, but as my politics evolved, like I came to this understanding that I have of, Israel and Palestine some number of years ago. But there's no question that the genocide has radicalized me in a different way. That just watching this unchecked violence, just this endless bloodshed unfold, and to see our politicians continue to make excuses for it. It's bad enough the ones that make excuses for it and like lean into the whole AIPAC thing the way the John Fettermans do. The ones that really make me crazy are the cowards that just, refuse to even acknowledge their complicity in it. And so then obviously the 2024 election cycle is happening, and I see what they're doing to Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman. And I took that very personally. Frankly, it pissed me off because I worked very closely with Cori Bush in particular in her first 2 runs for Congress. And I was very, very proud to be part of the coalition that helped her get into office. And just seeing the way that they smeared both of them, used all these racist attacks against them. And to do so in service of continuing a genocide made me crazy. So I started a PAC to basically go after AIPAC directly. I was like, I don't see enough people like going straight at AIPAC and naming them as the actor in this space, as the big heavy. And so I want to do that. So I started the PAC, and I got introduced to Casey, who he's the one who actually came up with the idea of Track AIPAC and started the Twitter account. And he, similar to me, like he learned about the issue. He was, watching the genocide unfolding. I don't want to tell his story for him. He would be glad to come on the show some other time to tell you much more detail. But the short version is that, like me, saw the genocide unfolding, felt like he had to do something. So he started pulling the numbers, making these red graphic cards and putting up the receipts, and it took off really, really fast. And when he and I got introduced, we realized, okay, we're tackling the same problem. We're just coming at it from different angles. And so like, we should join forces. And so we did. And so that it's been like off to the races ever since. It's for both of us, like, anti-corruption work, anti-corruption politics has always been very important to each of us individually, and then understanding this organization AIPAC and also the broader Israel lobby as a whole, and the role that they play in these elections. All of it just kind of like supercharged by watching this genocide unfold. That's how we got started.
Right. And just so people have a sense, I mean, I'm just going to show an example of this because I realize that I think this imagery is probably familiar to people, but they may not have connected it with you know, so this is track AIPAC, right? So you guys do things like these graphics. You retweet other stuff too, but the kind of you guys retweet a lot of stuff, which is great. But now my point is being undermined by how active you guys are. But anyway, you've seen those. There you go. Oh, perfect. Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Perfect. So there you go. You have the people, and then you have how much they collect from AIPAC. But actually, and you tweeted this out. Now, before I move to this issue, I do want to wrap up what I had said before, because I realized we moved off of that. But you, as someone who has come out as a survivor of sexual assault, what do you think of the way that people like Dana Bash, Hillary Clinton, Sheryl Sandberg, Kamala Harris kind of weaponize sexual violence to justify a genocide?
It's disgusting. It's beyond disgusting. It's unforgivable. It is not only in service of an ongoing genocide. It is an absolute slap in the face and a betrayal of everyone, not just women, but everyone who has ever been the target of sexual violence. That it is, you are creating an environment that makes it permissible to not believe people, to question their experiences. And that is not just about like what happens in the social atmosphere. Like I'm someone who, when I was raped, I went to the authorities. I reported it, and I was treated like I was the person who had committed the crime. They straight up told me, I don't believe you. In fact, you know that it's a crime to file a false police report. And they threatened to charge me. And I walked out of that police station and didn't look back.
Can I ask like what year and what state this was? I'm just curious.
It was Alabama in 1999.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's to have a person in authority look you in the eye and say, I think you're lying, and I think you're the actual criminal. Like, I know what that feels like on a visceral level, and I feel it when I see someone like Dana Bash, just completely disregarding, dismissing all evidence of sexual assault, of the extremely well documented, far more documented than my own case was, extremely well documented reports of sexual violence against Palestinians and the horrifying things that are done to them. For her to just completely dismiss that and to continue to propagate these very thin, widely discredited stories of October 7th. Again, I do not know. I genuinely do not know if anything like that occurred on October 7th. Yeah. And I would believe someone who shared their experience if they did so. But yeah, but
that hasn't happened. And yeah, and certainly, like, I mean, I think a lot of people, what other people have said, like Ali Abu Nima, who we had on last week, who's done wonderful work on this, he basically said, like, no matter what happened, I don't want to misphrase him, but basically he said, what definitely did not happen was a systemic, like, coordinated mass rape campaign.
There's no documentation of that. None.
Yes.
No evidence.
Yeah. And so, and what makes it so sick is that every time Dana Bash pushes this hoax, the mass rape hoax, right? Which again is like that's not up for debate. I think that some people can say we don't know what everything that happened on October 7th, right? But the coordinated mass rape, every time someone uses that to justify an ongoing genocide, they're also enabling ongoing rape, because sexual violence is being used as a tool in this ongoing genocide. So it's just it's so unforgivable. But
absolutely,
and thank you for speaking out, because I'm sure you get. I mean, I know we'll get into this in a little bit, but you get so much hate and crap for doing what you do. So I hope that that wasn't added to it. I hope no one went after you for that. But so going back to what we were saying, one of the things that you actually tweeted when I was showing your tweets was something about Josh Shapiro. So here he is. He is the actually, wait, sorry. Before we get into that, is there anything you want to tell us about how AIPAC functions, how it operates and how it functions that you don't think is known, like, by the general public already?
Well, I think, what's really interesting to see is how they have changed their tactics in response to the pressure environment that the genocide has created, and I certainly think that our work has had a role in that. They were really feeling themselves in 2024. They felt very confident in their ability to spend openly and to brag about it, and that decidedly began to shift in the wake of the 2024 election. And as 2025 kind of unfolded, we saw this especially in Illinois, but it is certainly not limited to Illinois. It began with reports about how they had stopped bundling donations through their own coordinated activity, that they were instead directing donors to secret donation pages. They were sending out emails going like, click here to donate to this person, click here to donate to that person. And they were taking them directly to campaign donation pages, going out to all their major donors so that people are making contributions straight to the campaign without having the AIPAC brand attached to it. And then they started to do this shell game where they started creating what I think everybody is now popularly termed shell packs. They did this especially in the Chicago area races, where they stood up groups like Elect Chicago Women and Affordable Chicago Now. And there was a couple of others that I don't remember off the top of my head, but there was at least 3 or 4 in the Chicago races alone. And they were playing a pretty interesting game in terms of like which kinds of candidates they were promoting and how they were promoting them. But it was all the same basic group of donors that were all AIPAC major donors that were funding these pop-up shell packs. They start a pack. You can start a pack in a matter of days, really like in 24 to 48 hours, depending on how quick you move. So you can start a pack very easily. And if you time it correctly, you start the pack in between the reporting periods so that somebody can start a pack, can get a bunch of money in the bank, and can immediately start cutting ads and spending that money before timed just enough before an election takes place so that the reporting of who actually gave money to the pack doesn't show up until after the voting is done. So that's part of the game that they've started to play. And they create all these little shell packs, and it's all an effort to hide the money trail. They don't want to have the AIPAC brand attached to it because the AIPAC brand has become incredibly toxic. And that was actually one of the things that we set out to do. Like Casey and I, when we met, we were introduced, we realized both of us said, yeah, we want to make AIPAC donations toxic. Like that's the whole goal here. So we set out to do that, and that is now becoming a reality. So they're moving through these shell packs where they're funneling money and they're running ads. Of course, I think this is more well known now, but maybe not everybody knows this. Anytime AIPAC or a group that AIPAC is funding runs an ad in favor of or against a candidate, they're never, ever talking about that candidate's policy with respect to Israel. Never. They don't ever say you can't trust this person because they're pro-Palestine or because they, said this about Gaza or whatever. It's never about things like that. It's always about other issues, usually like kitchen table kind of issues. And it's because they know that their position is unpopular and untenable. And nobody's excited about sending billions of dollars to a dictator when they can't even afford their own groceries. Like it's ridiculous. So there's the direct donation, secret donation pages, the shell pack game that they play. And then the third major tactic that they've switched to is where they use these pass-throughs, where they'll use an organization like a 314 Action Fund or a Vote Vets or some others that are legitimate organizations that have their own mission, that have a distinct purpose and do real work to support candidates that they like, but then also sometimes act as a vehicle for AIPAC money to get shuffled into a race without having the AIPAC brand, again just by taking their donors and like directing them straight into this portal. So it's a whole like just a constellation of tactics used to ultimately to hide the money trail, because they have to hide from how toxic their brand has become.
Right. Well, you tweeted out or AIPAC Tracker tweeted out an interesting clip with Josh Shapiro, Democrat governor of Pennsylvania, and he was being interviewed by Politico senior columnist and podcast host Jonathan Martin. And here he is being asked about AIPAC's role in the U.S. government. So let's take a look at this, and then I'll have you respond.
In your party, we saw it play out in this primary here in Philadelphia, in which AIPAC, which historically was a bipartisan group that supported pro-Israel candidates, came in and helped the candidate who wound up coming in third place, I think, and lost. Has AIPAC now become, in a Democratic primary at least, an anchor around some of these candidates, something to be avoided?
Yeah, I don't know. And look, it's never been an issue in any of my races at the state level, but I do think it has cynically been used by some. I'm going to make this a broad statement, not about the race here in Philly, but I think it's been used cynically by some to try and silence certain voices, to try and say that certain people participating in politics shouldn't count or should be viewed in a toxic way. Now, do I agree with every political decision they've made, every endorsement they made? Of course not.
Have they hurt themselves, do you think, AIPAC?
But I think what we have seen is a weaponization of that, and I think that is a danger for our system. When you have people who are advocating for issues that they feel strongly about, and they are having their voices silenced, I think that's a problem in our system.
There's a blurring between being against AIPAC and being against Jewish folks giving money, you're saying?
I think it does get blurred because now what you are seeing is not, quote unquote, AIPAC money or however it was termed, but you're getting the Jews who give to that candidate who also support AIPAC. I think it's very dangerous in our system. If you are trying to silence certain voices based on their race, based on their faith, based on.
All right, I'm going to let this play, but let's just remember this. He's accusing critics of AIPAC of silencing people's voices. Okay, yeah. Okay. Sorry, Brad. Let's keep going.
Particular ideology.
Would you want their money?
Based on their faith, based on their particular ideology.
Would you want their money? And they being, to be clear, AIPAC donors.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm running for governor, and they don't play in state races. I'm not trying to be cute about that, but it's just not an issue here in my race for governor.
But this could be a factor down the road if other opportunities do present themselves, right?
Well, I'm not looking down the road. I'm looking at how we can win a re-election for governor, how I can help deliver 4 U.S. House seats, and how I can finally flip our state Senate, which has been in Republican control since 1992. That's what I'm focused on.
Okay, so I don't know where to start. I'll let you go, Cory. This is
so much to unpack in that little clip. So first of all, let's just state up front that what he is doing is the exact tactic that that AIPAC themselves is using to try and silence all criticism of what they do by conflating any criticism of the Israeli government, any criticism of the Israel lobby, and any criticism of AIPAC specifically as being a criticism of Jewish people. And that is insane. That is not, first of all, AIPAC doesn't even believe that. AIPAC loves to brag about the fact that they are supported by a wide swath of Americans of all identities. They brag that all the time. We know that the vast majority of Zionists in America are Christian evangelicals who are supporting, the state of Israel existence for their own purposes. That is such a dangerous line. It is such a dangerous line. I mean, I'm laughing and cringing at how awful that was, but the truth is that the narrative that he's pushing is so dangerous because what it's doing is it's cutting a path that is leaving a broad avenue for right-wing, genuine anti-Semites to come in and claim the turf. Democrats won't stand up against this genocidal government. Democrats won't stand up, not enough Democrats anyway, will stand up against, what AIPAC is doing in these primaries or just in our political process in general. And so they have left that lane wide open to the Tucker Carlsons and the Marjorie Taylor Greens of the world.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, we have to do a whole show on that. And Norman Finkelstein's getting a lot of hate over this. That's a whole different subject. But yes, I think that is true that, we need to look at how Democrats have failed on this and how that has given other people a lane. And these people are people who I think have lots of reprehensible views.
Absolutely.
But,
I'm sorry, Katie, can I also just add that in my view, this is a perfectly good waste of a pizza.
Oh yeah.
in order to make it seem like they're just kind of hanging around, like they haven't eaten any of it.
Just a couple of bros, man.
you're
That
right,
pizza's
exactly,
going cold.
And I don't know what that third plate, who that's for, but
that would be for Elijah, which is something that you won't understand. But that's a Passover reference. You leave out a cup of. I think it's Elijah, right? Yeah, you leave out a cup of wine in case he comes, or a blank seat, an empty seat. Oh, yeah. Anyway, keep going.
All right.
It's
No, that's all. I was just like, wow, why didn't they just sit at a table? Why did they have to like pretend like, oh, by the way, let's just impromptu do this thing?
Yeah. Aren't you convinced? They look like just two guys. I feel like Jonathan Martin doesn't usually have that Southern of an accent, but I'll let you diagnose that. It's kind of, yeah. But I actually want to ask you how the Christian Zionist lobby, like that would be CUFI, right? That's one again. Like, how does the CUFI compare to AIPAC?
CUFI is so much harder to track because unless I'm very mistaken, they're organized as a 501c3, and so their activity is a lot more opaque than what we see from AIPAC. AIPAC has this whole multi-tiered infrastructure. They've got the 501c4, which is AIPAC. They've got the 501c3, which is American Israel Education Foundation. Right. That's the organization that takes the Congress members. I don't know how is this legal, but it is. They take dozens of our Congress members and hundreds of our state legislators to these propaganda trips to Israel every year, and it's all just under the umbrella of education and completely tax-free. And then of course they have not one but two PACs. They have AIPAC-PAC, and then they have the super PAC, the United Democracy Project PAC.
Right.
So they've got all of those even before we start factoring in the AIPAC allies, which are other lobby groups. We're tracking over 60.
Cory, I'm seeing some people in the chat. Would it be possible just to briefly explain what CUFI is?
Christians United for Israel.
Sorry. Yes.
No, yeah, it's my fault because I brought it up. Yeah.
Yeah, no, Christians United for Israel. They're, like I said, they're a 501c3, and also a very good illustration of the point of why what Josh Shapiro just said in that clip is completely off base. There is an entire lobbying group that is dedicated to Christian Zionists who are promoting the government of Israel. So yeah, I mean, it's infuriating to see that conflation because it does create space for true anti-Semitism, and that's just sickening. It creates a space where a lot of people are a lot less safe, and let's just say it is not anti-Semitic to oppose sending billions of dollars to a dictator, to a foreign dictator, to carrying out a genocide using American bombs and American money to do it. There's nothing anti-Semitic about calling that out. If we were sending, I don't know why we would, but if we were sending weapons to Vladimir Putin, I would still be screaming about that. I mean, it's insane.
Well, and by the way, CUFI, someone, I want to screen share a little bit of CUFI. CUFI, they're famous for, what's his name? John Hagee. Yeah, John Hagee. So John Hagee is this pastor who John McCain had to disavow because he was one of his advisors. John Hagee. So here's a CUFI, Christians United for Israel post. Here we go. It says, for decades, Pastor John Hagee has sounded the alarm on the growing hatred directed at Israel and the Jewish people. The methods evolve, the slogans change, but the target remains the same. In a time of rising anti-Semitism and global pressure against Israel, Christians must have the courage to stand for truth, reject hatred, and defend Jewish people without apology. So we are actually, Brad, if you could find this, I think it's pretty easy, or I'll look for it, or Brad or Nate. There's a clip of him where this is someone who actually called Hitler a hunter and Herzl a fisher, basically saying that God sent Herzl and Hitler to bring Armageddon, which is really fascinating that he's saying that Hitler and Herzl kind of worked hand in hand. That's something that, like, anyway, there's a lot to unpack there. But this guy is, if he didn't say such atrocious stuff, he'd actually be funny, because he does say some really funny stuff about, like, I think he has a book called, like, you can't put lipstick on a pig or something. But he also, it's so fascinating because I didn't even know this, but I'm going to show another tweet from CUFI. Their pinned tweet right now, is it their pinned tweet or their most recent one? Hold on one second. It is it's from an hour ago. Okay, so here's what they tweeted an hour ago, which is fascinating. Because it's all coming full circle. Allegations contained in the May 11th New York Times article, "The Silence That Meets the Rape of Palestinians" by Nicholas Kristof, were repudiated almost from the moment the story was printed, with most of the sources shown to be Hamas linked. Not true, but it's interesting how much of a threat the reporting on rape of Palestinians is, because it really undermines the narrative that Palestinians, monsters, rapists, Israelis, good defenders of civilization and humanism. So actually going back to so should there be a CUFI tracker?
Because we're focused on the electoral space and they don't really play in the electoral space, it's a lot harder to track their influence, and they also aren't relevant to not that they aren't relevant, they are, but they're not as directly relevant to the thing that we set out to do, which is to show the direct linkage between the lobbying efforts going into the pockets of politicians. Maybe there should. I don't know. Yeah. It's certainly, I think they come out as part of the broader conversation around how we talk about these issues. I think what we've seen over the last year in particular is a big change in the way just ordinary Americans who barely have, much of exposure to, let alone opportunity to understand these issues, the way that they think about it. Because, just think about it, for decades, it was unquestioned dogma that Israel is our greatest ally, and Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East, and Israel, it's like all of the things that like the standard kind of talking points, and I think 2.5 years of an ongoing genocide and growing awareness of the unbelievable violence and illegal settlements, and frankly, terrorism being committed against Palestinians in the West Bank and occupied territories. I think growing understanding of all that is really undoing those assumptions in real time in ways that many of our elected leaders have not yet come to terms with.
Right. Yeah. Well, here's that clip, by the way, that I brought up because I'd be remiss to not show it. Here's Hagee talking about
this was the one you mentioned, Katie, about Hitler being the hunter.
Yeah. And Herzl being the sticker.
He's obscene. He's so gross.
Yeah.
Jeremiah 16, behold, I will bring them, the Jewish people, again into their land that I gave unto their fathers. That would be Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Behold, I will send for many fishers, and after will I send for many hunters. And they, the hunters, shall hunt them, that will be the Jews, from every mountain and from every hill and from out of the holes of the rocks. If that doesn't describe what Hitler did in the Holocaust, you can't see that. So think about this. I will send fishers and I will send hunters. A fisher is someone who entices you with a bait.
Yeah, keep going, Brad.
So is he saying that God sent Hitler?
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
That's insane.
How many of you know who Theodore Herzl was? How many of you don't have a clue who he was? Woo! Sweet God. Theodore Herzl is the father of Zionism. He was a Jew that at the turn of the 19th century said, this land is our land. God wants us to live there. So he went to the Jews of Europe and said, I want you to come and join me in the land of Israel. So few went. Herzl went into depression. Those who came founded Israel. Those who did not went through the hell of the Holocaust. Then God sent a hunter. A hunter is someone who comes with a gun and he forces you. Hitler was a hunter. And the Bible says, Jeremiah writing, they shall hunt them from every mountain and from every hill out of the holes of the rocks, meaning there's no place to hide. And that will be offensive to some people. Well, dear heart, be offended. I didn't write it. Jeremiah wrote it. It was the truth, and it is the truth. How did it happen? Because God allowed it to happen. Why did it happen? Because God said, my top priority for the Jewish people is to get them to come back to the land of Israel, Today, Israel is back in the land, and they are at Ezekiel 37:8. They're physically alive, but they're not spiritually alive. Now, how is God going to cause the Jewish people to come spiritually alive and say, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, he is God?
So that is John Hagee saying that God sent a combination of fisher and a hunter. The fisher was Theodor Herzl, the father of modern political Zionism. He sent him, and he sent Hitler to bring the Jews to Israel. And that what he left out is, of course, that will provoke the Armageddon, during which like the end times, right? And I think a small number of Jews gets to convert and accept Jesus Christ as our Lord and Savior, and then all the rest of us burn in hell for eternal damnation. And these are the allies. But I mean, I've said this, it's great because Jewish Zionists think that this guy's crazy, and this guy thinks Jews he doesn't care what happens to them, to us, whatever. So it's a great cynical partnership. But I want to ask you about this Philly race that Jonathan Martin and Josh Shapiro are referring to. And full disclosure, Chris Rabb, he did get the Katie Halper Show bump. We did have Chris Rabb on, and we haven't. Yeah, he was great, and he won. This is the race that they're talking about, where an AIPAC cutout, right, gave money to Ala Stanford, who. I mean, it was unbelievable. So the three viable candidates in that race, in that primary, were Chris Rabb, Sharif Street, and Alice Stanford. And they were all African American. And Alice Stanford, when asked about genocide, literally said that using the word genocide was like using the N-word. And
oh my God.
But so that was a great example. That was Philly's. That was the 3rd congressional district, and AIPAC through one of its cutouts was heavily invested. So that was a victory, right? For
sure.
Yeah.
No, for sure. We also backed. So good job on the Chris Rabb, Katie Halper bump. We also backed Chris Rabb. We were very excited to see him win that race and really attribute it to the fact that he speaks. I mean, his policies are objectively good for the people of the district, and I think that's mostly what people responded to. But I would think that on this issue in particular, the fact that he speaks with such moral clarity and fierceness is what people are craving, because we have been watching a live stream genocide for 2.5 years that is ongoing, while having all of our political leadership just absolutely gaslight us and tell us that it isn't happening. And if it is happening, it's not that bad. And if it is that bad, well, it's their fault in the first place. It's just the gaslighting makes you insane. And to have somebody step forward and to be able to speak with such fierce moral clarity on that resonates and matches what we are witnessing and experiencing in real time, that's what the moment demands. And the Josh Shapiros and the Gavin Newsoms of the world have not yet prepared themselves to reckon with that fact.
Right. Yes, precisely. Now, another election result that was not as not as exciting to people like us was the Massie election in Kentucky. Tomas Massie, what can you tell us about that?
Well, so Tomas Massie, I mean, obviously is somebody whose politics I disagree with a lot of his politics. I think that goes without saying. I am a leftist. It's not a surprise. AIPAC loves to point that out whenever they get the opportunity. But his position on several issues as a libertarian is certainly something that I can get behind. And, certainly the Epstein files, fighting for the release of those was something that I supported. And, his position on AIPAC's influence and, just ending U.S. support for the genocide, I think was really important. But what's interesting about that race, and this is very telling about how AIPAC operates, and I don't want to give away too much about our own strategy here, but I'm going to give a little piece of it here. So AIPAC has very, very deep budget. They have a huge budget that they can spend. They can just drop in and spend, here's $10 million on this race, just without even blinking. And what they did in the Tomas Massie race, I think they were responsible for, I don't have the exact figures in front of me, but around 14 million of the ultimately 30 million that got spent against him, making it the most expensive House primary in U.S. history. The second most expensive House primary in U.S. history was Jamal Bowman versus George Latimer. And the third most expensive was Cori Bush versus Wesley Bell, both in 2024. So the top three most expensive House races in history are all because of AIPAC spending millions of dollars to oust a critic of Israel. And the fact that they depend on being able to, they depend on being able to enforce the fear of them dropping in and spending that kind of money against anybody. And they do that by showing up once or twice or 4 or 5 times a cycle and saying, like, look how much we could spend this much around this person, this much against this person. But what they can't drown out is the truth.
Right.
And so our tactic, part of our tactic is to put as many candidates on the field as possible, to support as many voices as possible that are willing to speak clearly and forcefully on these issues, and to amplify that message so that they're forced to defend their territory and to defend their ideas in more places than they were anticipating. Yeah. The fact that they had to spend so much money against Tomas Massie meant that they had less time to put money against Chris Rabb. They had less time to put money against other candidates that they would have liked to have been able to stop. Also doesn't help that they're picking terrible candidates. Right. But,
Yeah. Well, we also have a clip that I actually just came across. Brad, I just sent you a clip that I think would be great to show. Let me know when it's ready. But Tomas Massie had
It's ready.
Oh, great. Okay. So here, speaking, well, let's finish the Tomas Massie thing, and then I'll get to that one. So thanks, Brad, for that. So this is how Tomas Massie conceded. This was his concession speech. Let's take a look.
I love this. This is so great.
All right. Listen, I would have come out sooner, but I had to call my opponent and concede, and it took a while to find Ed Galrein in Tel Aviv.
So, of course, this was termed as anti-Semitic. Because
I did get the call through, though. I have called and conceded the race. We've been honorable.
This is obviously a reference to how much money that was poured into this, right? Over the issue of Israel. I mean, it's not like there's nothing anti-Semitic about that. And again, this guy is a Christian Zionist,
right?
He's not. So again, this is Christian Zionist phobic.
Right.
But if anything, right? People should play that identity politics card. But I wanted to show a clip that's from today from CNN. Oh my gosh, this is and again, guys, Jews, please stop doing this because it's not actually good for us. But here's a CNN panel talking about criticism of AIPAC. So embarrassing.
Oh, I haven't seen this.
Yeah.
Actually, Katie, I apologize because it was a post that has multiple posts or videos on it. I think that I got the incorrect one, so I need like 1 more minute.
Okay, great.
Sorry.
We'll do it, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it is funny though just to hear like Tomas Massie, and I think it is, politics makes for strange bedfellows, but we do have to remember that people can be critical of Israel for different reasons.
Yes.
For some people, it's isolationist, and I'm glad that they as many people voting against it. That's great, but we have to remember like where people are coming from, and like kind of like you said, as a libertarian, which is what he is. There's certain positions. I'm sure I agree with him, unless he's a hypocrite. I'm sure I agree with him on drug stuff and sex worker stuff. But don't quote me on that because I haven't checked him. So he may be a libertarian hypocrite. But look, Rand Paul has been one of the greatest people on Iran. Terrible on Israel, but he's been great on this one issue. It's funny when he's like, all the pro-life groups were backing me, and it's like, yeah, he's not. This is not a guy who I otherwise like.
I mean, did you see that article about not to open up a whole other can of worms, but that article about John Fetterman and his special advisor? His own staff refers to Fetterman as the senator from Tel Aviv.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Come on.
That's hilarious. Yeah, that is insane. Well, here's that CNN panel that maybe Brad was actually giving us more time to like take a Dramamine in preparation of, but yeah,
that was it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How do you deal with the money part of it? So, for instance, when you have organizations, lobby groups creating shell packs, for example, how does this engender distrust, and how does it feed into this ongoing debate where now you have candidates who are saying, as a point of pride, they will not take money from AIPAC? Is this something you're hearing?
Of course, it's something I've reported on, and it is there's millions of dollars that are coming in on this. There are some millions of dollars that are with Latino-backed packs or
also
Black
crypto and
or
AI.
Crypto and all that. But the association that happens here over this over Jewish money and how it connects to all this is very clearly coming across. And look, even if you pull out the Jewish relation to what Galindo is saying, you have a candidate for Congress who's talking about concentration camps in America, right? Now that you're talking about Jewish, yes, but like yes, but even if it were not about that. A candidate for Congress talking about concentration camps in America is going to get thousands of votes today, at least. Maybe she'll win. That she's talking about them related to Zionists, that concentration camps for Zionists brings us to a different level.
Well, now
very clear what's going on.
only billionaires.
The PAC money we're talking about, by the way, and I've done work with AIPAC before, the PAC money is from regular American citizens, and some are Jewish, some are Christian, who believe in the U.S.-Israel relations.
I think there's some debate when it comes to PAC money, because we don't always know what is happening with PAC money. But I even brought up Massie earlier, because there was also a Republican Jewish coalition that spent money there. Like
from individuals. They collect their money from individual American citizens. I mean,
Sorry, Katie, can I just interject and say that I'm sorry if this offends anyone, but I think that it shouldn't be allowed for people to wear cowboy hats on news panels.
Oh, well, like that's Chuck Rocha. Has he said anything yet? I don't think he's.
No, but it just kind of looks silly.
All right. Well, that's okay. Thank you. I will bear that in mind. Okay.
Why shouldn't they, right? Like, why shouldn't they oppose candidates who oppose their agenda? Why? And look, I've never been an AIPAC backer. I'll say when I've engaged in politics, I've stayed out of that lane. But I'm very offended as a Jewish American to see AIPAC attacked because they are supporting or opposing a candidate. They are American citizens. The people who support them are American citizens, and you should call out the positions, but don't attack them because they're Jewish.
Massie spent so much money himself, and look, the biggest reason why he lost that primary is because Donald Trump was very clearly against it, right?
Well, he voted against tax cuts too. You can't. But I did some ads against Tomas Massie. He was against the Second Amendment. He was against tax cuts. I mean, he was against the U.S.
to locate that
relationship.
entirely about.
I mean, as a reporter, I'm looking at some.
Okay, so please don't say that out loud. That as a Jew, you're offended by criticism of AIPAC. You can be offended by it as a Zionist, maybe. But why are you saying that as a Jew? Like because you're conflate again. You are implying that all Jews support this genocidal state, which at least keep your own genocidal behavior, like keep it to your under wraps or be public about it. But it has to do with you. Don't condemn all Jews in that. Don't implicate all of us.
Well, I'll tell you, that would be news to a number of the anti-Zionist Jews that support our work.
Yeah. It's just like, I mean, public citizen, what are they talking about?
Right.
They're like pretending AIPAC is some like bread and butter organization, salt of the earth. Well, last thing, because you've been so generous with your time, but I do have one more question for you.
Okay.
Well, two more questions. Talk about how they're the AIPAC. What is this article that I just saw? Hold on one second. There was something I wanted to ask you about. Okay. So AIPAC is the biggest source of Republican donors giving to Democratic primaries. That was an article in Politico. Can you expand on what that means?
Yeah, I mean, the primary backers, the big money backers behind AIPAC, certainly they have a pretty broad coalition. They have very deep pockets, as I mentioned. The principal donors are right-wing, ultra-wealthy, predominantly Trump supporters, Trump backers. And so when they made the conscious choice to start investing in Democratic races, it's inevitable when the majority of your large dollar donors are right wing, that's right wing money with a right wing agenda attached to it going into Democratic primaries, and they're looking to appoint Democrats into those positions that are going to be favorable to their interests, which is how we end up with a John Fetterman, for example. It's just objectively true, and infuriating that more Democrats don't recognize that. You can actually see this if you look, if you take a kind of like a scroll through our website, you just kind of like browse the different tracker cards that people have. You'll notice that by and large, most of the Republicans have smaller amounts of money that they've taken from the Israel lobby. It's because they're already ideologically aligned. They don't have to be, coerced with campaign contributions to go and support the agenda that AIPAC is pushing, but they spend very big in Democratic primaries, and which is why we see Democrats racking up really big numbers, hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of dollars, just from AIPAC alone. And like I said, we track the entire Israel lobby, not just AIPAC. So it's just a fact. It's just a fact, and you can see the way that they're trying to influence Democratic Party politics, in particular, by the amount of money that they're spending. The whole reason they created United Democracy Project was because they needed a different brand name that didn't sound like AIPAC to go and spend money in Democratic races and not have the AIPAC stench. And that was even before their brand is as toxic as it is today.
Right. Yeah. It's something that people should probably be concerned about. But somehow when Israel's involved, they throw their politics out the window. So, and tell us about why you and Casey, your co-founder, decided to come forward and be public about who you were, because you were anonymous at first.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's couple of reasons for why we were anonymous in the beginning. The main is the biggest reason was just that we wanted the work to speak for itself. We think the work does speak for itself. The numbers are the numbers, and the numbers tell the story. And there was no reason anybody needed to care who either Casey or I were. That part was never important. But we always knew when we started this project, and we talked about it, about what we would do if this came to be a reality, that if we poked the bear hard enough, that we might be outed in some way. And that was beginning to happen. Casey definitely got the worst of it, far more than me. He, again, not to tell his story, but, he began to receive a lot of harassing messages. People had discovered his name being associated with the account and with the PAC itself, and started to, to post at him, that's one thing. Like, people just posting things is one thing, but he got some very disturbing messages sent to him through private communication channels that were not publicly known, that were very concerning. And enough that we had to actually hire a security team. And we hired a security team to come in and help us, get everything shored up, make sure that we were safe and that our families were safe. And took those measures. And at that point, we decided, okay, either they're going to tell our story in bits and pieces, or we're going to tell our story. And so we made the decision to come forward together and to tell our story, tell why we did this, and then to go back to letting the work speak for itself, which has been our focus.
Wow. Well, yeah, that must have been liberating, right? And kind of like a relief when you finally did that, knowing that they wouldn't be able to use anything against you.
I mean, in certain ways, yes, but there were also real consequences to it. Casey, for example, lost his job because of it. And so thankfully, our grassroots supporter base has been very generous, and we've been able to sustain our work and haven't skipped a beat. In fact, now Casey likes to say, if anything, they unleashed me, they get to work on it full time. So right. It's definitely, there's been consequences, things that we had to be more mindful of. Of course, I, like a lot of people, enjoy my privacy. I would prefer to be a private citizen. But, this work is too important, because just like I said, what compelled us to start the project in the first place was watching this genocide ongoing, and just feeling like we had to do more. We had to do more to tackle it, and I attacked it in the ways that I know how to do because I've been working in politics for a while now. And even still, it never feels like you're doing enough because you just continue to watch it unfolding all the time, and you just feel like there's always more that you need. You got to find another well of energy to pull from.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your bravery and for all that you do. And yeah, we'll definitely have Casey on and have you back on, and you should give us you can give us like an AIPAC update.
Yeah, for sure. We'd like to do that. And if anybody wants to follow our work, you can find us on Track AIPAC on all socials, and check out trackapac.com. There's a lot of great resources there. And of course, a button to donate if you have found the work helpful and you would like to be able to support what we do. Thank you.
And one thing is, of course, your critics, sometimes I saw these ridiculous claims that you guys are like anti-Semitic and racist, which is really funny because you target people of it doesn't matter if they're Jewish or not. You have Jewish candidates who are not supported by AIPAC. You have non-Jewish candidates who are supported by them. And you you've endorsed like Chris Rabb, who's Black. So where's the racism there? You know what I mean? And that's not like a one-off. So
right.
Yeah, that does not stand up to scrutiny at all. I hate when people are liars. Just be open about it. This girl's like, just hear me out. I don't even know if she is. Hear me out. I've dug into the numbers. I've done the research, and they are problematic, but you're not. So anyway.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it very much.
Of course. Thank you for coming. Have a great night. Okay, guys, don't go anywhere because we have our final guest of the night. We're so excited to be bringing her back onto the show. She is a show favorite. She barely needs any introduction. Her name is Medea Benjamin. She is the co-founder, godmother of CODEPINK, and an author and an activist. And you've seen her get arrested and travel to countries. And she admitted to something. She admitted to being guilty of something. She is a self-described guilty person, and she'll explain that. But welcome to the show, Medea. Hi, Medea.
Hi, great to be on with you.
Of course, yes. So tell us what has happened. You have some interesting announcements to make. One is that should we show your guilty plea?
Sure.
Okay, I'm gonna start off with the guilty plea. Brad, here, you want me to send that to you? 1 second. Oops, sorry, wrong thing. Okay. Okay, here we go. And by the way, as Brad gets us up, this would be a great time to like the stream if you haven't already. And for background, as people probably know, I was on this trip to Cuba that is in question. We released a great interview that I did with Jeremy Corbyn. I mean, I'm not bragging. It's great because Jeremy Corbyn's great. And there were amazing little kids during the interview who came up and spoke to us. And also, by the way, Patreon supporters will be getting a sneak preview mini clip of a great interview I did with Gerardo Hernandez, who was one of the Cuban Five, which is a fascinating interview. This is a guy, one of they call them Castro's spies. And these were people who were spying not on the U.S. government, but spying on terrorists who were being sheltered in some ways by the U.S. government. So that is something you guys can look forward to. Brad, I can also just screen share it because it's just a couple of images. No, he's one minute. How are you, Medea?
I'm good, thank you. Maybe we should give some background to your audience about why we're doing this, which is there was a Fox News report saying we were being subpoenaed, me, Hasan Piker, and they talked about 40 other people, but we were being subpoenaed by the government because of this trip we took in March. And a big, hullabaloo about, oh my God, subpoenas. I was looking out the window to see if somebody was coming to serve me with a subpoena. And I think Hasan Piker was freaked out when he first heard about it. And then nothing came. And then lo and behold, yesterday, my co-founder of CODEPINK, Jody Evans, was looking in her spam box for something else. and she found an email from the Office of Foreign Assets Control, known as OFAC, and it was a request for information. And so that was what this was all about, a request for information. It's not anything criminal, it's civil, but it is a big deal. So we can go into that after if you're ready to show what I'm guilty of.
Yes. Okay, here we go. Here, historic moment, Medea confesses. You want to read it, Medea?
I plead guilty to loving the Cuban people. And then we go on.
So I'm guilty of loving the Cuban people, guilty of believing Cuban children deserve medicine instead of sanctions, guilty of believing that trying to save lives should not be treated like a crime. And then the great image, I plead guilty to loving the Cuban people and their adorable children. Go back for a second, Brad. I just want to, they're these adorable children holding signs that are hearts that say Cuba sí bloqueo no, Cuba yes, blockade no, lift the blockade on Cuba, Cuba U.S. friendship, milk yes, blockade no. And then let's read the next card, please. The Trump administration is investigating people for bringing medicine to Cuban children while defending policies that deprive those same children of food, fuel, and basic medical supplies. If loving the Cuban people is a crime, then millions around the world are guilty too. Don't investigate solidarity. Investigate the blockade. Leave Cuba alone. Yes. So nice. Yeah, that was great. Very good response. But what are your thoughts on not just this, but the fact that Fox News? I mean, you and I were talking about this the other day. You're like, well, they kind of got it right, kind of got it wrong. What is the significance of this questioning? But also, what do you want people to know about what is happening right now in Cuba and what CODEPINK is doing about it?
Well, yes. I mean, the least important is what the government is going after us. Although I must say these letters, it turns out, have not been sent to people for years. It's been a long time since anybody got a letter like this from OFAC. So these are these right-wing Cuban hawks in southern Florida, as well as in Congress, who are pushing like, do something. People are taking medical equipment to pediatric hospitals. This is terrible. We can't allow this to exist. So yes, they're going after us. But more important is that the U.S. is setting the scene for an invasion. They've already been tightening the screws on the economy like you couldn't believe, looking for every way that Cuba gets a nickel or a dime from the outside. And then they have this oil blockade, which only one Russian ship has made it in there since January, and people are really, really suffering. On top of that, there's the indictment of 94-year-old, soon to be 95-year-old Raul Castro. And then there's talk about Cuba is a threat. They've got drones. They're going to attack the shores of Miami, the Key West. They're going to attack Guantanamo, which really is their own territory. They have listening posts. They've been saying that for a long time, for Russia and for China. All this stuff that Marco Rubio tries with a straight face to say Cuba is a threat to the United States, which I think anybody in their right mind would laugh at or cry. But yeah, they are setting the stage. So it's very, very worrisome. I was just talking to people in Cuba today, and they said, look, we're so busy just trying to survive, just trying to get water up to our apartments, trying to find food, trying to get anywhere, that we can't even think about how should we be preparing for an invasion. And it keeps people very nervous, and it's just a policy that is really it's beyond pathetic. It's so inhumane. It's so cruel. It's so psychopathic to say that we want Cubans to suffer so much that they will rise up against their government, because they haven't been doing it for decades and decades and decades. And then Marco Rubio, I don't know if you saw him, Katie, but he actually went on TV to say to the Cubans that what you are suffering, the lack of oil that you're suffering is not because of U.S. policy. It's because of your own government's policy, which is just unbelievable. So
yeah, it really is,
here we stand, and yes, going after us for trying to be a beacon of morality in this totally immoral policy.
Yeah, it is really ridiculous, and I wanted to show some amazing responses to this story about what was being done about these subpoenas. Brad, I think it's easier for me to show them at this point. So here is Benny Johnson, who's this right-wing hack. Okay, let's see, where is this? Benny Johnson is responding to a Fox News story. He says, ask yourself why a Twitch streamer was taking 40 Americans on a convoy to communist Cuba. Ask yourself why CODEPINK, a radical feminist group, was organizing it. Ask yourself where the money came from. The Treasury Department is asking these same questions, and the answers potentially tied to the Chinese Communist Party. Hasan Piker spent years telling you America was the villain while torturing his dog on Twitch. The real villain? Hint, it's usually the guy electroshocking his dog while taking communist kickbacks. Okay, okay. Here is the and here's the Fox News story on it.
Department.
Okay.
Is now investigating Piker and CODEPINK, who hosted his trip to Cuba. The feds are looking at funding for the trip, which some think is tied to the Chinese Communist Party. Also under scrutiny, American businessman and social activist Neville Roy Singham, who has donated to CODEPINK in the past and has alleged ties to China through his business dealings. The investigation is looking at his trip, which involved as many as 40 American citizens who joined what is being called a Marxist convoy to Havana. The Trump administration wants to know if Piker and CODEPINK violated U.S. laws and sanctions in support of Cuba's communist government. For now, nobody has been charged.
All right.
People have a right to be stupid and support socialism, okay? Despite all the things that you and I might say against that. What they don't have a right to is receive payment, and that is what the feds are investigating now. They haven't been charged with a crime, but just checking if they have received any payment for the propaganda.
It says he's not yet received a subpoena from the U.S. government yet. Justice Department is now.
Yeah, who's paying you the big bucks to support the people of Cuba, Medea?
Well, I have a question for you, Katie. Who paid for your trip?
I paid for that out of my own pockets.
Your listeners probably help you paid for that. And Hasan Piker paid for it out of his own pocket, and so did the 170 people that went. Everybody paid for it out of their own pocket. So it's so crazy. You know, I kind of feel like we're living in the 1950s, you know, this McCarthy era where you just can't even get through all the lies and the crap. This stuff about how we're connected to the Chinese Communist Party is such hooey. You don't even know how do you go against something that is just so completely false?
Well, I think it's often, honestly, like projection, because these are people who can't understand having any political commitments or caring about people. So they're like, oh, someone must be paying you to want to deliver aid to Cuba.
Well, not only that, Katie, you just had on track AIPAC. And so we know who is representing a foreign government, and it's not us. It's just about everybody else in Congress who takes that money from AIPAC and meets with Netanyahu on a regular basis. And you know, they're the ones that should be investigated, not us.
Yeah, and look at this, another fan of ours, Medea. So again, this is in response to the federal officials have served subpoenas. It's wrong, but so to Marxist political influencer Hasan Piker and CODEPINK co-founder Susan Medea Benjamin is part of a wider investigation into whether U.S. organizations and leaders violated U.S. laws and sanctions in supporting Cuba's communist regime, according to Fox. And so what the lovely Senator Rick Scott of Florida said, good, Hasan Piker and CODEPINK went to Cuba, stayed in 5-star hotels, cozied up with thugs in the communist regime, and completely ignored the innocent political prisoners being starved and tortured. They should be thoroughly investigated and held accountable for any laws broken in doing so. Thank you, U.S. Treasury. Now, I saw you... and one other person who's happy about this happening, and you know you're doing something right when this person is happy about someone going after you. would be none other than the great psychotic Laura Loomer. Several of us exposed the funding network of CODEPINK. I recall sending you a lot of information. But you, in a wonderful exchange, which we can put in later, we'll edit it in, with Rick Scott, pointed out that you basically debunked all of his points, but one of them being that we stayed in hotels that we were allowed to stay in because as U.S. citizens, we're not allowed to stay in any old hotel, but not because of Cuba, but because of the United States.
Well, right. There's a long, long list you can scroll through on the U.S. website of all the hotels you're not allowed to stay in. And guess what, Katie? They're all the like 2-star, 3-star hotels, the modest ones where we would have liked to stay. Right. And instead, we just had a handful of ones that are all foreign owned that tend to be, they call them luxury hotels. You stayed there. It wasn't really a luxury hotel. It would be in this country like, maybe a 3-star Hilton kind of.
Yeah.
But in any case, that's where we had to stay, according to the U.S. government. And it's funny that right-wing guy, what's his name?
Nick Shirley. Yes, Nick Shirley, ironically, was the one who stayed in a sanctioned hotel.
Yeah, he stayed in the Nacional, which is where, we would have loved to stay. But of course, we didn't want to break the law, but he did.
Yeah, actually, we have a great little video. Brad, I will give this to you because it's a video, so it's probably better to... If you scroll here, Brad, if you can just scroll down and show these things, I think that's the best way to do it. Yeah, because Reed Lindsay from Belly of the Beast had exposed the truth about Nick Shirley, which is great. And Medea, as Brad gets that ready, I know you're incredibly busy, but I wanted to just give you the chance to talk about any other CODEPINK campaigns, things that are happening. I also do want to give you credit for also being slandered by similar allegations because this is McCarthyism is bipartisan. Nancy Pelosi, of course, slandered CODEPINK of being paid by the Chinese government. Is that what she had said?
Yes, she was Chinese government now, but, we've had others that say that we're Russian government. And of course, there used to be the Venezuelan government until the U.S. invaded there. But we want to highlight the war powers resolutions that are now in the House and in the Senate on Cuba, saying that Trump does not have the right to invade or do a naval blockade without going to Congress first. So we want people to support that. And today we were in Congress around Lebanon and the War Powers Act that is in Congress there, saying the U.S. can't be providing intelligence and other support to Israel in its war on Lebanon. So there's a lot of work to be done. We also encourage people to keep raising money for humanitarian aid for Cuba and to do protests. There's going to be worldwide day of protest this weekend where people are going to U.S. embassies to say no to the U.S. naval blockade, the sanctions, and an invasion.
Wow. Well, that's great. You guys, I'm so always impressed and glad to collaborate with you, even if that gets me on a list. Let's take a look at this tweet, this ironic tweet, explaining who was really staying in the sanctioned. Okay. Nick Shirley stayed in the Hotel Nacional de Cuba during his recent trip to expose the Cuban government violating the U.S. sanctions Cuba prohibited accommodations list. Let's take a look at the video.
So Nick Shirley, the right-wing influencer, says that he's being held hostage in a hotel in Cuba. Well, guess what? We found the hotel. It's right here, Hotel Nacional. And it's actually illegal for him to be at this hotel, but not illegal under Cuban law. It's illegal under U.S. law. Let me show you how we know it's a hotel. All right, if you look at the tweet and the video that he posted, that's the room he's staying in, pretty much, right? Red curtains. This is the Hotel Nacional website. You can pretty much you can't stay in this hotel legally as a U.S. citizen according to U.S. law. The Cubans welcome you here, but the U.S. does not want you staying at this hotel or pretty much any other hotel all over Cuba. There is such a thing as there is something called the Cuba Prohibited Accommodations List. Here it is right here, Cuba Prohibited Accommodations List. Below is the U.S. Department of State's Cuba Prohibited Accommodations List, a list of properties in Cuba at which the Cuban assets control regulations generally prohibit persons subject to U.S. jurisdiction from lodging, paying for lodging, or making any reservation for or on behalf of a third party to lodge. It's not just this hotel either. Look at all the hotels. I mean, dozens. upon dozens, pretty much every hotel in Cuba. We just went in the lobby. Things are calm. There's no security. Everyone, this seems like a normal day like any other. We're not even, my guess is Shirley's not even here anymore. He just, and there's really no evidence. There's no reason to believe that he would be in any risk at all here in Cuba. There's no U.S. journalist or influencer in jail in Cuba. I've been here for 6-7 years. I've never heard of that occurring. But Shirley would be at risk in the United States because he's violating U.S. law. Chances are nothing will happen to him because he, from what I know, is very friendly with the current administration. If somebody else were to stay here, they might be in trouble. That's why I never stay here.
Wow.
What a great piece. I hadn't seen that. That's fabulous.
Yeah. And we can cut in the hostage video from Nick Shirley later where he's.
And Katie, I'll just show you also the post above that.
Yes. Hasan Piker says Fox News has fallen for a fake tweet claiming he stayed in a sanctioned hotel in Cuba. There is an American citizen who recently did violate OFAC and stayed at a hotel that America does not allow citizens to stay in. It wasn't me, though. It was Nick Shirley. Yes. And
I saw another interesting comment from Hasan basically saying the equivalent of like Fox News doesn't necessarily fall for these fake things. They may know that completely, but they just assume that their audience will fall for it.
Well, that's actually related to what I was going to say, which is like there is something to kind of casually throwing these claims around because they do have a chilling effect, right? And it does make it hard. You know, people always want to like balance being responsible and being brave. And that's why we did this great stream with a lawyer, Mo, about knowing your rights, basically. But this is why they want people to think this stuff, because they want to scare people into this. This is why they questioned us when we were coming back and took our devices, etc.
And to scare people into not doing what you did.
Yeah, sorry, into not going to Cuba, not supporting Cuba, right? Yeah.
Like even though you dotted all your I's, crossed all your T's.
No laws were broken, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it's important to debunk this. But again, it's important to be like skeptical of claims coming from Fox News.
Well, also it's important to recognize that we are being attacked as CODEPINK. We do have to now get lawyers. We have to put staff time into this. We have to put resources into it. You know, we want to focus on stopping the U.S. policy towards Cuba. And instead, right now, we have to answer a whole host of questions in great detail about a totally legal trip and jump through a lot of hoops. So yes, it is intimidating and it is time consuming and it is expensive and it is harassment.
Yes, it is. All of those things. Yep. And that's what I was saying. There is this fight, you know, it's a delicate dance, right? Or it's a difficult balance because you want to be responsible, protect yourself, protect all the other people who are involved in this, without spreading hysteria.
Well, and we want people to keep going down and we will keep sending groups down and we want people to keep raising money for humanitarian aid. And we want people to see the harassment as one more reason to be angry at the U.S. for its policy and, you know, use that as a stimulus to just keep working on this and finding other ways and educating people. You know, one thing I should thank the government for is at least for a couple of days, it's given us a lot of publicity that has allowed us to talk about these issues. And, you know, people like you and Hasan and people who have a large audience, they've been able to take advantage of this. Ryan Grimm, I've heard him talking about it. And, you know, it does help because what we want to do is educate people. So, you know, thank you, OFAC, at least for that.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for the free publicity. And it's another reminder also of why we have to be united. And, you know, the more of us do this, the harder it is for them to punish us. So, well, anything else you want to mention, Medea?
I am sure you've had on your show things about the flotilla and the horrific way that people have been treated and the beating up of people in the Basque Country in Spain and all of this, you know, all of these horrors that we're seeing, of course, supported by our own government. And we as we walk through the halls of Congress. It's funny, you might have seen Randy Fine, who the other day saw somebody with a Palestinian flag and went nuts and said, there's only one flag in the United States, and that's the American flag. And of course, we went by his office today, and there's the Israeli flag. And you go by, so many of these other offices, and there's the Israeli flag. So we have to point out the hypocrisy. You go after a group like CODEPINK that is totally separate from anybody's government, any government financing, any big money politics like that. And yet, they try to paint us as somehow being un-American. Once I went on a trip to Iran, and I came back, and there was a FBI with a form for me to fill out. They said, if you wanted to represent the Iranian government, you have to fill out this form. And I just laughed and said, I would save that form for all of these AIPAC people that are going on free trips to Israel and coming back with the Israeli government talking points, give them that form.
Yeah, good point. Well, actually, Medea, thanks for reminding me that I have to tell people that on Friday, we are doing another stream, a daytime stream, and we do these daytime streams so that we can have on people based in different areas, like in Iran, West Asia, what the kids call West Asia, which used to be called the Middle East. And we will be having on Saif, who is one of the members of the flotilla. He and Santiago Davila from Brazil. Saif is Palestinian but lives in Spain. He'll be joining. We'll have Mohammed Morandi of Iran giving us an Iran update. We'll have Ghada Karmi, the Palestinian total genius Renaissance woman. She's literally a doctor, like a one-state solution expert and analyst, and now has written a novel, a historical fiction novel called Murjana that takes place in 7th century AD Baghdad. It's so good. So all of those people will be joining on Friday. And of course, Medea, you're always welcome, and come back soon. And I hope to see you soon in real life too.
Thank you. You have on the best guests. And I love your show. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Have a great night. Okay, that was great. And you know what? These stories are so important. We're not going to paywall any of it because I think people need to hear all about it. We will have, for Patreons this week, though, we will have a really cool sneak preview of this video that we're working on with a member of the Cuban Five, Geraldo Hernandez. So that's something you guys get to look forward to. Brad, is there anything else I want to say? Make sure that you like the stream if you haven't already. Give it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe. We're at over 450,000 subs. If anything weird happened to members, let us know, because whoever hacked this was deleting. No, they didn't delete videos. They privatized and demonetized videos, which was really weird and annoying. Make sure you subscribe, because we will be doing that Friday daytime stream probably at noon. Not sure yet. Probably noon. Yeah.
Posit just a thought, Katie. All we can do is purely speculate. But as
I thought that was it. That was just your thought, about the world. Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Yeah.
As I don't need to tell you, or maybe some people out there that have had any experience with this, that there is no customer service number to call or someone to talk to if anything like this were to happen. And this happened on a holiday weekend. And so whatever person or entity would have done that, they would have been completely understandable to think that they would have had at least until today or tomorrow until we could have done anything about it. And so I was just thinking the other day, what you just said about privatizing a bunch of things and whatnot, there could have been a plan to do something beyond that. It's just that we were able to regain control of it before that they assumed we would have been able to do that.
Very, very important. Yes. And that's really, gotta say, guys, it would be great if there were a way to reach out to people for these emergencies, like on a holiday weekend when people may be on vacation. I'm not saying people shouldn't get vacation, but you probably should have. You should. Something like this is pretty serious. So I think that there needs to be a better way of reaching people. There's not a lot of opacity.
If it weren't because of the fortunate nature of between Katie and me, basically essentially reaching out to anyone and everyone that we possibly
Who had
could,
any connections at either YouTube or Google.
we would have been completely screwed.
Yeah. And like when my Twitter was hacked, remember they put like literally a picture of Andrew Tate. So imagine if someone had done that. And and also like we have 450,000 plus subscribers. So I mean, imagine if you're a smaller channel and this happens. I mean, I doubt, when we tweeted it and got retweeted, not that that actually results in anything, it was literally only friends of friends. And thank you to the person who really hooked.
Yeah,
who
and
really
to everyone we reached out to, and everyone who
retweeted,
reposted anything like that, or replied to us.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you so very much.
Yeah. And if you want to keep supporting the show, please do so at patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Again, that's patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. If you pay $5 a month, which is less than 25 cents a day, Monday through Friday.
It is exactly 25 cents.
Sorry. Wow. I've been lying to people all the time. I thought it was like 24. You can do that at patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. If you can't swing it and you still want to support the show and be part of the Patreon family, that would be great. You can do that at $1 a month. That's literally $12 a year. So if everyone did that, we'd be in great shape. And let me just read these super chats. Okay, let's see. What do we got? Barbara Kiali, thank you for that super sticker. Thank you for that super sticker.
Don't even try and read that.
Thank you for gifting that membership. I'm glad that the memberships were paused also. That was great. Thank you,
so if anyone has any issues with that, we think we've resolved it. But if anyone has any issues, please reach out.
Write in the comments in this video. Yeah. And then thank you again for that super sticker. And I think that's it. Thank you.
G6W Dan.
Yeah. Thank you, by the way, to everyone who helped with the show. Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you, Nate. Thank you, Phantom Esfanta, for the clips on Twitter. Thank you, Brad, for everything. Also, thank you, Ryan, again, for the great Jeremy Corbyn video, which people have really liked. We got to get some short clips of that out because the Corbyn team, I think, would appreciate it. And thank you for the 10 pounds from Exit X101. And I think that's about it. Thank you, David. We just got a Patreon right now. Thank you, David. Let's see. I like reading these in real time, right? That's cool. Okay, Patreon. Let's see. Thank you, David. Thank you. See, I got a lot of things from Patreon, but like they're not necessarily. Let's see. Thank you, Richard. Thank you. Here, if I put in Patreon and meet.
Thank you so much, Errol Dog, for the super sticker.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Maud. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Jillian. Thank you, Zal. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Nate. Thank you, Agnes.
Wow.
That's great. These are from May 17th. Did I read those yet? These are great.
It doesn't hurt to read them twice.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to read them twice. Thank you, Allie Fisket. Meet Putin. Putin is a war criminal. That's another name. Hal, Ray, Duncan, Paul, Alice, Lily, Esty, Elgin, Anne, Zal, Agnes. And then I read this. Nate, Stephen, Zal made it even higher, and Jillian, and Tom, and I read the other one. So thank you guys all so much. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes. But that shouldn't discourage you from giving, because we still a lot of those are $1, which we really do appreciate. But yeah, everything
helps.
And then thank you.
And even if it's simply commenting or liking,
the stream, exactly.
Just like this person who would donate some money, but he bought too many Dr. Peppers.
Oh my God, that is terrible.
Liking and sharing helps.
Liking and sharing helps. Yeah.
And Zay Depor, if you're being hacked, then the Israel lobby is in meltdown, and you are doing something right.
Yeah,
that's entirely possible.
Yeah.
But unless you literally like work for Google, it doesn't seem to me like there's any way to, with any degree of certainty, know the hows or whys of those sorts of things. Like the best we can know is, thank goodness we resolved it.
Yeah. This is nice. Katie Halper and co, Aaron Grayzone, and Electronic Intifada deserve way more credit for bringing to light long reported IDF human rights horrors involving use of animals on Palestinian prisoners. Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely revolting. And Mohammed Shahada, I just want to give him so much appreciation, and also all the lawyers who work on that. We're going to try to have some of those. And there have been all these allegations that, credible, obviously, allegations of sexual assault of people who took part in the flotilla. And again, this is one of those things that kind of like I was saying with Mosab, it's not that I care more because they're not Palestinian, but it just shows that they don't even have, they have such impunity. We know they don't care about Palestinians, but sometimes
the flotilla to Gaza.
The flotilla to Gaza, yeah.
Yes.
We know they don't care about Palestinians, but sometimes they don't want to
Well, in this case, wasn't it one of the most recent cases? Aren't we talking? We're talking about like a German citizen and an American citizen.
Yeah. So
those are literally the two strongest allies of Israel, and they're doing that to those citizens.
That's why, probably, because they know. Yeah, because they know that the German government and the U.S. government won't do anything about it.
I didn't think about it that way, but that makes sense, and that's insane.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you guys again, and we will see you on Friday. Bye, everyone. Have a great night.
I did everything right, and they indicted me. And I don't know what the I'm doing. Antifa!